love sports. I like to laugh. I like to swim. I like to shoot guns. I like to be in my backyard. I got dogs. Man, I like football and basketball, bro. I am as normal as a ninja could be, bro. I'm saying? Like, oh my God, got me in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Everybody what they about to say.
But I'm saying people don't know that. People don't know that about what I'm saying? I hear Preston up like, yo, y'all ain't shooting, y'all ain't holler at your boy.
You know what I mean?
Holler at your boy. But I think that's what the unhealthy criticism comes from people looking at public figures as robots and not as humans, because we're all made in the image of God, and you would see them as people and not like robots. And I love, you said something when you was articulating that. You said you take the pulpit seriously, and you say your style's not the only style. So talk about that a little bit. Like, do you think there's room for anecdotes or like a joke or an analogy or a story?
Absolutely, bro. I think there's room for all of that. And if anybody listens to the body of my preaching, you're going to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think people see a lot of clips on social media. I think you got to be careful from just characterizing people based on a 60-second clip. Come on, man. Both ways, good or bad. I think if anybody has sat under my preaching for any amount of time, you will hear a joke every once in a while. I remember one time I was talking about, like, in Matthew chapter 18, right? When Jesus, like, if you receive a child, you receive me. He's talking about, if you receive a fellow disciple, right, you receive me. And I remember I was preaching about that, and this was our 12:45 gathering, so people in 8 and 10 didn't get this. So I'm like, yeah, that's like us going to Starbucks, and you're sitting there with your girlfriend, and your bundles is tight, and you're eating, drinking a little ICI refresher, and you got the mango on yours, and it's giving friendship, it's giving coffee cake, it's giving fun, it's giving, and I'm doing this, and I'm having this playful banter, and the room is going crazy and laughing. You know what I'm saying? And people don't see that side of me, but it's in there. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So there's times when I think there is room for anecdotes, and there is time for stories and having human. Well, I think there's a place for all of that. Yeah. I think it becomes problematic when all of your proclamation is that. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Because I don't see the Lord being a clown. Yeah. I don't see God being a clown. I don't see Paul being a clown. I don't think they were clowns. It's not. And I think the Lord did have a sense of humor, but I don't think when it comes to proclamation, he was a clown. So yes, there's room for all of that, and I'm not knocking anybody for doing that. You know what I'm saying? That will leak out of me, but that's not going to be the majority of my proclamation, because I'm just a serious person by nature. Yeah. Especially when I go. For me, when I mount a platform, for me it's life or death. I see every time I mount a platform, I see that as a window in time, in eternity. That if I don't live past this moment, how did I use this window in time in eternity to point as many people to Christ as possible? For me, preaching is serious business. So a joke might leak out, and stories will leak out, and a laughter might leak out, but that's not my primary bag. Right. My primary bag is I'm trying to point as many people to Christ. To me, it's warfare. To me, it's life or death. To me, it's the front line of battle. It's repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So that stuff will leak out. There's a place for that, but that's not all the stuff that's in my bag. Yeah, my rocks are not, it's not human stuff like that. It'll leak out. Yeah, and there's a place for that. Yeah, but I think we should take proclamation serious.
Well, especially in an era where it's not taken very seriously, and it is. It's funny. I read somewhere.
Yo, bro, you know when you're talking about community just now? I think it's dope that you go to a local church, and a lot of people need to know that. Like, you are legit, global figure, but yet you are in community too. I just think we should just parenthetically insert that you attend a local church there, and a lot of people who may not know you close enough behind the scenes don't even know that you attend a local church. So I just want to throw that in there about community, bro.
Oh no, it's massive for me, and I take the church community very seriously. And I also, even in my dark season when I was struggling with like landing a church, I had a convo with Eric Mason, and he just, he challenged me on that. And he was just like, you can't float forever. You know what I'm saying? Because you're robbing the community of who God has made you to be, and they're getting robbed because you're not allowing them to be who they need to be in your life. And you know, and it was like, man, I needed to hear that in that season. So yeah. But what I was going there was something I was gonna ask you because he was talking about. Oh yeah. Just like I just recently read this, right? So I'm interested in your perspective, right? So apparently, before America's Great Awakening, a lot of pastors would just get up and read, and it would be very stoic. And then apparently George Whitfield was inspired by the theaters and some of those things, and
Solid.
okay.
He was a solid man.
So he started, because of that, like amplifying and articulating in an engaging way for the listeners. And I'm curious, like, I think we are in this weird space of like, if I had to give my opinion, I'm interested in yours, but if I had to give my opinion, we became pragmatic and learned like, oh, if I just amplify and entertain, I get more engagement. And it became more about the engagement of the gathering than the proclamation of the truth.
Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing yours. Like,
I might be wrong if I quote this, but I think George Whitfield, the same man you just cited, was the man who might have said, I set myself on fire and people come to watch me burn. I think he's quoted as saying that. That's crazy. And if he's not the one, I don't know who said it, but I think it was him who said that. He said, I set myself on, it might be him or John Wesley burning. He said, I set myself on fire, people can watch me burn. My perspective on that is this. And especially like in the black context, we know for generations preaching has been like an art. You know, whether it was how well someone can hoop or how well you can land a plane. We know there's a lot of artistry to preaching, and I'm not trying to come down on generations of preaching. I think there is a type of artistry to communication, and whatever the case may be. I think for me, I am a very unpolished preacher. Okay? That is my artistry, probably not that good.
John the Baptist.
And I'll be honest, bro, it makes me feel insecure.
Really?
It does, bro. Really, it does. I have a close friend who's his name is Ron Simmons. Shout out to Pastor Ron Simmons. He pastors the church in Tampa, Florida, called the Lions Way Christian Church. One of my closest friends in life. He's a very polished communicator. His cadence. And he and I, when we talk, I tell him like, he talks about, man, I wish I had your passion. I'm like, man, I wish I had your cadence. I'm a very unpolished preacher. This makes me feel very insecure. And it makes me feel even more insecure because, for 10 years I preached with outlines, and I had everything manuscript, and I would hold my iPad, and I would be a little bit more polished. But in January and February 23, God told me don't carry any more outlines to the pulpit. So since February 23, I have not carried an outline to anywhere. Like I'm preaching on Sunday somewhere in America.
And you judge me for my outline right here?
No, come on.
I've been all over the script anyway, so it's not messing with
No,
you.
but if I'm doing a talk like this, I will have my iPad.
Yeah.
But the Lord told me don't bring outline into the pulpit. So for
Know that scripture.
right. So since January to February 23, over a year now, I haven't used an outline. So that's made me even more unpolished. Right. So every Sunday I get up, bro. I'm going up there with insecurities, still dealing with fear every Sunday. I kneel at my chair. I have a group of wonderful dynamic prayer team that pray with me to pray that fear out of me, pray that anxiety out of me. And I go up there, it's just the Bible, the Holy Spirit, and I got no safety net.
You still feel nervous getting up?
I feel nervous every Sunday.
Really?
I feel nervous every Sunday. I feel nervous every platform I'm on. I feel nervous when I get there. And I have this thing, people, I always kneel at my chair. Any place I am, I'll kneel at my chair and pray before I'm on any platform.
Wow.
In that moment, I'm kneeling, I'm working out of myself, my pride, my arrogance, my fear, my insecurities, my jealousy. I'm working all that out in prayer. And then God is going there with an empty vessel. And then by the time I get up on the platform, I'm ready. But I got to work that out at my seat. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't even know if I should have said that
Nah, it's actually profound. I think, man, that you humanize yourself, and
I don't want people to feel like I'm afraid every Sunday.
I love that stuff.
You know what I'm saying? I feel nervous every Sunday. So for me, I feel insecure because I feel like my music is very polished. And I'm saying that to say I don't have artistry.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of my friends. Sometimes I'm like, I wish I had your kind of cadence, and I don't. So for me, I feel very unpolished. I feel very rugged. I feel very austere. I feel very. I don't have. So for me, I'm preaching like I would talk to a group of dudes. If it was me and four dudes in the Bible, I'm talking to the room like I'm talking to them. You know what I'm saying? It's just a pure conversation between me and whoever's listening, and I'm talking to them with the same passion and love, and it's love. Yeah, it's not anger, it's love. It's love, passion. Yeah, and so it's very unpolished. I am unpolished, and I still feel insecure about that. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, man. Don't change, man. We love that. Like, being honest with you.
Yeah.
That's what is dope, because that says, I just need the Lord.
Yeah.
Like, I need God. And I think it makes you trustworthy, because it doesn't sound like a person who's like, well, I got this. This is nothing.
I never feel that way, bro.
It's somebody who's like, God, you don't show up.
That's exactly right. I'll be up there forgetting stuff in my outline. You know, I still prepare outline. Yeah, I'll spend 8, 16, 24, at least about 30 hours a week working on a message. You know what I'm saying? I'm in there 8 hours Wednesday, 8 hours Thursday, another 8 hours on Sunday morning, on Saturday morning, another 4 hours on Sunday morning. I'll put in about 30 hours on a message. I gotta be married to that text. For me, it's not just 2 points. Like, for me, I gotta be married to a text. I gotta have that thing tattooed to my heart. So I done shower that text in prayer. I done married myself. I done asked that text so many questions. I mean, so when I get up there, bro, I've done and prayed out all of that insecurities and fear, and I get up there, bro, I got no safety now. You know, I'm totally dependent on the Holy Spirit to bring to my remembrance everything in my outline. And there's stuff I've written down in my outline I didn't say, and it might come out better than the 8, than the 10, or better than 12. And I'm 100% dependent upon God. When I get up there, I'll be in the middle of something, I'd be in a brain freeze, like, what was the next thing in my outline? I didn't remember. So that's made me even more unpolished, and to be honest, Craig, that's made me even more insecure.
That's what God be
I'm
using.
more insecure now leading 2019 than I was leading the church I used to lead, which was Victory. I'm more insecure now because I have no safety net up there, bro.
That's what God be using that, though. He just uses the unlikely candidates.
I'm thankful that you do it, bro.
I'll
be driving,
come on, Moses.
Bro, I'll be driving home like, tagging, I missed this. I was supposed to say this. Did I watch this? Did I sit down? Man, I beat myself up on the way home, man. Like that, I really, that proclamation, I messed that up because it's so unpolished. Yeah. Nah, it's not a worry for me.
Yeah, I think it's dope.
It's not a worry.
I appreciate your honesty, man.
It's a weight for me, bro.
I got enough. It's a million questions I got. I'm gonna ask a couple more, and then I want to go underwater a little bit. But I got deep. I'll take you underwater. But I got one question before we get underwater. There's a lot of deliverances, a lot of testimonies of strongholds broken, a lot of tears and repentance that I see in association with 2819. Talk about the infrastructure, the elders, and how, like, because these are people who they're going through and they need help. How do they grow from it? I just come, I hear a message, I'm broken to the core. Now what?
Yeah, so I feel like at our church, we try our best to model 2019 after the church in Acts. I think one of the things we think that wasn't good is that when God told us to change our name from 15 to 2019, I pretty much lost my old church. The church that that's for me, I lost that during the pandemic. I lost everything. 2019 is almost like a new church plan.
Yeah.
Right? So a couple things. Number one, I feel like we have done everything we did in the past, we just threw it out. We did what's called whiteboard. And I told my staff, the only thing that we do that's written in pen is the gospel. Everything else is pencils, whiteboard. We're gonna be led by the Holy Spirit. So we try our best, number one, to model the church after the church we see in Acts, right? So core elders, we want to be serious about the proclamation, serious about prayer, serious about community, serious about discipleship, serious about generosity and outreach. That is the underlying structure. Our driving message is going to be the gospel. We want to spread the gospel. We want to multiply disciples. Somebody comes into our gathering and they're hurting, they're going through. We have elders in place. We have spiritual care teams in place. We have leaders who've been well trained in place. And our church is not perfect, though. There's no such thing. Our leaders are not perfect. There's no such thing. I'll be the first one to say that our church has outgrown the capacity of our staff. And so I'll be going through new hires in the fall. But what I will say, and I'm going to be honest, I feel like myself included, all of our staff, our elders, everybody, all of our leaders, I would say we are paper people. There's nobody who's leading me that has mega church experience. There's nobody who's leading me that's come from a mega church. We are still learning as we're doing this. Yeah, right. And I say to them all the time in staff meetings and stuff like, we would be arrogant and prideful and foolish to think that we got everything under control. And we know what we're doing all the time. Can I be honest, bro? We don't always know what we're doing all the time. A lot of times one thing we do is we pray like crazy and depend on the Holy Spirit. We plan like everything depends on us, but then we pray like everything depends on the Holy Spirit. And so while we got scripts and we are highly programmed and we know what's happening and what time we're transitioning, all that can be blown up by the Holy Spirit. And we try to create a community that we say it's okay to not be okay. Nobody here is perfect. The only sin that is Christ. And we are all people in here with brokenness and issues that we are trying to walk this path together. I think if we could normalize brokenness, normalize issues, and stop treating the church like it has to be a place where we put on front to say everybody's perfect, I think more people could get healed if we allow the church gathering to be a place where we could be honest about where we are. It's like, how you doing? Bless the Lord. No, I'm hurting. How you doing? Bless the Lord. No, my marriage is going through. And this is true. And I love 2019 for this. We have created a community and a culture where people feel, I think I would say there's some safety for people to be honest. Whether it's in our small groups that we call squads. That's what I want to be tapped into. I know some squad groups, we got squad, and we have over 1,000 people in squads. They meet all over the city. But in those squads, and this is true story, I know from anecdotal data and from being in myself in rooms, there's tears being shed in there's real. There's marriages being restored real. People are paying each other's bills. They're watching each other's kids. People have bought each other's cars. They are sharing their burdens. They are bringing out their sin. They're being accountable for sin. It's real life happening in those squads. Oh, bro, let me tell you something, man. It's gritty. Our whole ministry is gritty. I mean, we got our own army of people out in the desert. We don't even have a building that we own. We in a high school in the desert, but it's gritty. And they're out there doing life together, bro. And they working stuff out. Bro, we have hard conversations in them squads. We got tough conversations in private. We confront each other over sin. We pray. We bring our stuff. It's real grittiness going on. And I feel like if you got the right perspective about what the gathering of believers, the ecclesia is supposed to be, and how we could survive those kind of things, I think you can come in and be honest about your brokenness and what you're going through and find healing, not because we are a perfect body, but we're trying to be a real body. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? Perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not be fake about this. From the man preaching every Sunday, I got brokenness, I got issues, I got insecurity. Bro, I lean on the elders. You know what I just said? Like, I gotta call them up and be like, this is what's going on this week. Can you pray for me? I'm feeling weak this Sunday. Can you pray for me? My marriage is looking shaky this week. Can you pray for me? I call up my prayer team, the leader of my prayer team. I call her up and be like, listen, this is what it is. I need you to pray about this. No, I'm working out my own stuff in the context of community. I don't want nobody to get a twisted thing because I'm the pastor and the founder. I'm above here, right? Like I'm up here and I'm above community. No, I'm working out my issues in the context of community, just like everybody else, and getting prayed for, and confessing my sin with the elders, and all of that is happening in the context. And I think that's the way it's supposed to be. And I think the more we can model that, which is not a 2019 thing, it's a New Testament thing. The more we can model that, I think more people can find healing people who are broken could return. We even have people coming back in the season who was with me in previous seasons, and there's reconciliation. Well, I just reconciled with 2 old staffers that used to work with me from a previous season, that they hurt me and I hurt them. They have come back, we've reconciled, we're loving on each other, all of that. Like, that's back in 2019, B. That's New Testament. And I think it don't matter what the name of the church, if we just model more churches after the New Testament, I think we can see more healings and more deliverance and more. I feel like that will happen more if we just model ourselves after the teachings of the New Testament. Good. You feel what I'm saying? That's really good. And it's tough when you're a silent sufferer and you're around believers and can't get no help. Bro, come on, baby.
I don't want to say that like,
you know what I'm saying? Like you and I came out the street. You came out the street, and you could probably testify. Sometimes you find more loyalty in the street, better community in the street, more honest in the street, more codes and ethics in the street. But bro, man, think about all the people, man, who are in churches. My street is silent sufferers, correct? And you around Christians and can't find no help. Didn't James say, confess your sins to one another and pray that you might find healing? Healing comes from community, confession, repentance, and people are not going to judge you all the time. So I feel like there will be more of that across the country if we just pattern ourselves after the teachings of the New Testament.
It's encouraging, man. All right, one more question, and I'm gonna tap into the other one. All right. A lot of churches do topical messages instead of like expository teaching. You've been in Matthew for a minute, 2 years.
Started with 180 people.
What do you feel like? Which, I mean, there are different perspectives. I'm not saying right, wrong, right. But what do you feel are the traps or the temptations or the struggles with doing topical or serious messages?
Yeah, so I've been topical teachers for 10 years. I'm serious for 10 years. I don't think there's a place for that. I would not see a podcast and be an advocate to say for being topical or heretical. I think that would be unfair. Because I think you can be topical and exegetical at the same time, right? So I think there's a place for that. I'm in Matthew because God told me to, right? When we started 2019, God told me to be fully expository, and He told me to start with Matthew, right? And then He told me to get an outline, which to me made no sense. To get an outline to be expository made no sense to me. But so I am not an advocate for expository preaching to the degree I say you're topical, you are that, which I would never say something like that. But I spent 10 years doing topical messages. I do think there are some pros and cons to both, but I think when it comes to topical, I think the biggest danger with topical preaching is that it is very easy to take a text, and if you're not properly skilled, eisegete that text from its context, use it as a launching pad for a 45-minute lecture that has nothing to do with the context of the scriptures.
What you want to talk about.
Right, and I think that is the temptation. And as a result of that, that is one temptation, and as a result of that, there is a tendency for us then, who are listeners, to be so impressed with oratory, man-made messages, that we find more confidence in the words of men than in the words of God. And I think that is the only real temptation of that. And I think a person who's a topical preacher just has to be careful to not eisegete text from his context. And you can preach in topics, like I want to preach about finances, and you see what the scriptures have to say about that, and preach that. And just make sure it's all being done in the proper context. I think the only advantage, I would say, to expository preaching, not saying only, I'm not saying one of the main advantages is this. The Bible, those 66 ancient documents are inspired by God. God gave us those 66 documents through 4 human authors, 39 Jews, 1 non-Jew. Look, it is alive and it is active, right? So when I think about the time I might spend working on a topical message, and I craft a creative line over, at the end of the day, there is nothing I, Philip, individual, credit any man is going to say that's more valuable than what God has said. So if God has said through the prophet Isaiah that my thoughts are higher than my thoughts, right? My ways are higher than your ways. And if His words are greater than our words, then I am not personally sure what we can preach that is more valuable than his actual words themselves. So this is not to say if you're doing topical message, you should throw it out. That's not what I'm saying. Even if you do topical, be topical, but stick to the text as much as you can while you're being topical. Yeah, don't butcher the text while you're being topical. Right. But I think the power of exegetical preaching is that it may be boring to some, and it takes more work in terms of study and labor, but you're actually teaching people what God has said. And I think if you're teaching people what God has said, then you're actually teaching people the most powerful words that has ever been said. And the insecurity for us as preachers when we walk out of that preaching and feel like, hey, the people listening now, they're going to get it. I feel this every time you're like, man, they're going to listen. I want our people to be saved and they're fire. You know what the Lord said about his word, Craig? He said, as the snow and the rain comes down from heaven and do not return, so is my word that goes out of my mouth. It does not return to me void, but it will accomplish that for which I have sent it. And since the word cannot return void, I might have just a little bit more confidence that if I have preached what the word says, even if it's unpopular, even if it makes people feel uncomfortable, even if it's not sexy, if I have taught you what the word has said, what God has said, what the apostles have said, what Jesus said, I can have just a little bit more confidence that even if I can't see the fruit in the moment, that word that went out, it will not return void. It will have some impact and some fruit in the heart that is open and disposed to receiving that seed. So this is not me saying topical preaching, no, because I did that for 10 years. This is just me saying, me being fully expository now is what God told me to do, and I'm just doing that out of obedience, and we have seen the fruit there. I agree with you, bro. Yeah.
Hey, look, I just want to say this too. If you love them, pray for them. You know what I'm saying? And if you got issues, pray for them. When the last time you prayed for somebody you were struggling with? That's on you. That ain't on them. You did. Love you, man. Appreciate you, bro. This was dope, bro. What's up? This was dope. Yeah, man. You're not going to say this about yourself, so I'll say it. You were the equivalent of LeBron James in the Debunking, who in a lot of ways sacrifices her career for someone who has spent the better half of their life incarcerated for something they did not do. Like, who are you?
We have the most prisoners in the world, in the land of the free, the home of the brave. A quarter of the world's prisoners are in the United States of America.
65 years for an attempted murder that you knew nothing about. I get a little emotional because I know your story. You shouldn't be here.
The first time I was down here, man, what is this scream? This rhythmic screaming. My son said, the way he said it, like, oh, he looked like you. Like, that's normal.
Were you afraid to fall for him because you didn't know the outcome of the situation?
I'm playing around the world, you're fighting for your freedom, like, this can't happen. And then there came a day where it was like, okay, we have to be honest.
I know y'all story, but I know y'all seen the comments about some of y'all stories. I want y'all to debunk some of these myths out here.
I really don't know that.
Oh, let me tell you. Let me tell you a couple of myths out here. Number one myth is...
This is the deacon with LaCrae.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Today, this is special. This is probably, for me, it's near and dear to my heart because not only do I have incredible people here, I have friends, I got family, I got neighbors. Literal neighbors, y'all. But today I have an icon, a strong, incredible, passionate leader and his wife, who's a Olympic gold medalist. We got Jonathan and Maya Irons, aka Maya Moore, And Jonathan Irons, man, we glad to have y'all, man.
So good to be here with you.
We glad to have y'all, man. So I do feel bad because we live too close together for us to not be hanging out more.
Yeah.
We are all busy. Yeah. And y'all are the busiest because y'all got a mini.
Yes.
So
2.5 going on 2 months again.
it's crazy.
He's
Like,
so big.
Mine is coming. No, we asking for that.
No. Walk in the room. Not how you doing, Mom and Daddy? Walk in the room. Yeah. Okay.
So both of you guys, your stories are incredible. This is like, could be a 5-hour episode. There's been an ESPN documentary. There's a book that's been written. Y'all been all over the news. And if anybody doesn't know the story, then I don't know where they was at. You know, they might have been like my wife, not on social media or stuff like that. But in a nutshell, you have the WNBA leader who, in a lot of ways, sacrifices her career because she's demonstrating the hope, the justice, the love of God for someone who has spent the better half of their life incarcerated for something they did not do. And to me, that's the nutshell. There's so many layers to that entire thing. And before we dive into that, I just want, like, who are y'all? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, because people, like, give me some background on just both of y'all's stories, you know what I mean? Your families and where y'all grew up and where y'all grew up at.
Well, I grew up in what you consider Metro St. Louis, Winston, Missouri. I grew up below the poverty line. We joke about climbing up the ladder to say, we poor, we made it, we poor. Yeah. And I was raised by my great aunt, and she was one of those big moms. She used to take on everybody's kids, take care of them. We lived in our area was good. It was like we were predominantly black in one area, and everybody else was in another area. And we just we made the best out of what we had. Like one thing we did not lack was love. We lacked, we had love for each other. My grandmother instilled that in us, and just. It was good. And then I grew up there. I grew up kind of grew up in the streets. My uncle, I had an uncle that was, basically misleading me. Hadn't been things I should have been doing at the time. But I didn't know no better. I felt like that was it.
So no dad.
No.
Dad's out the picture.
Y'all wouldn't know who my father. He could be sitting over there, and I wouldn't know his name, what he looked like. My mother. I got conceived of at a mental hospital during the time in St. Louis, kids would run away. My mother was going because of disease and everything. They would lock children up in mental hospital. So one of the guys was like 20 years old, and like, this is what I've somehow confirmed. At late for me, and I got conceived, and when she started showing signs and put her out, she went to him and was like, hey, I'm pregnant. He's like, hey, mine is awake. He's like, no, I'm the only one. Basically pushed her away. So she, after having me and just, working through that, she developed postpartum depression and they didn't have a treatment for that. So she gave me to my great aunt, and my great aunt raised me. And
So your mom was a teenager.
Yeah, young teenager. Wow. Yeah. And she started spinning around, getting high on all different types of drugs, trying to medicate. And then got stuck in our mental hospital my whole life. Yeah, so you started off with strikes against you out the gate, below the road, not below the name. Yeah, that's crazy. What about you, Maya?
Yeah. So I grew up in Jefferson City, Missouri. So it's the capital of Missouri. My mom raised me as a single parent, but she was born and raised in Chicago. And the family that she grew up with in Chicago, some of them moved to Missouri. My great uncle and my great aunt to take on a music directing position at HBCU in Jefferson City. And so when my mom found out she was having me, she moved to that area of the country to be by that family. It's solid, loving folks, it's authentic, do anything to help you out, show up. It's people, people with their feet on the ground trying to live and love people, but very musically influenced. So I grew up with a lot of music around, a lot of extended family around. I'm my mom's only child, so I didn't have any siblings or father in the house, but when we left the house, we had people. So I, looking back, had so many good role models, not perfect people, but people who were genuine and showed up. A lot of teachers in the family. Both my grandparents were teachers. And so I just had a lot of good role models, but I also had a lot of energy. I was one of the kids with the teachers. I got on their nerves, like, she's smart and she's fun, but she's doing too much. And at one point in my growing up, similar to Jonathan, they wanted to put me on Ritalin. They wanted to put me on, call me ADHD, do all these things. And thankfully, my mom was getting some good counsel and advocated for me. And I actually was gifted and got put into tested into a gifted program, which changed a lot. I had a fourth grade teacher help change my life, who basically encouraged my energy to help me channel my energy instead of demonizing me and my energy. And my talkativeness. But I enjoyed school because I had a lot of positive role models outside of that in school. So when I was in middle school, my mom said, you gotta go somewhere where both of us have more opportunities, and we ended up in Metro Atlanta. So I did most of middle school and all of high school in Gwinnett County and thrived. Found some great AAU teams. I was playing basketball at the time.
Who recommended you play basketball?
Well, I played every sport because my mom saw, like, this child needs to be doing something structured. Yes, we got it honest on both sides, our little guy. But she got me into every sport she could. My great aunt's like, put her on the basketball team. She's like, okay. And I started playing ball when I was like 7, and organized basketball. And so I ended up playing 9 seasons of the league before I got to UConn. And so I've been playing almost a decade of competitive youth ball before I got to UConn. So I should have been good. And my knees and my patella tendons were like, girl, what you doing? Why are you doing all this jumping and bouncing? You're only 15. So my body's been doing a lot of hard work.
So when I look at both of y'all, both of y'all in a lot of ways are born behind the gun in some senses. Like all three of us, right? Single parent homes, and it could go any way for us. By the grace of God, your mother had support, and you ended up being put in an environment where you could thrive. On the flip side, your mother did not have support, and you were put in an environment where you had to survive and not thrive. I know that well as well. Talk to me about the different trajectories, what happened, because we know what happened for you. Like if someone follows the story of Maya Moore, they can see like, oh, she overcame these odds. You didn't get a chance to overcome odds because the odds came against you in a different kind of way. Talk to me about the trajectory that life started to take you.
Well, for one, early in my life, I can only recall one teacher who's really caring about me. But after that, like I didn't have a teacher back then that really took a liking to me. I had too much energy. I do my homework and then I'd be up harassing people, cutting jokes, dancing. Teachers were like that. And my grandmother, we didn't have a furnace to heat the house up. And my grandmother heated the house up with a wood-burning stove. So guess what? My clothes smell like smoke when I go to school. So I remember a teacher put an air freshener under my desk because I smell like smoke. Wow. I had to deal with it. Kids laughing, oh, you smell like smoke. And how old are you? I think I was Yeah, that's tough. That was shaking me in all kinds of terrible ways. And then, my teachers, you can feel when somebody don't like you. And I felt it. And so I took it. So I don't like you music. I don't want to do. I stopped wanting to do homework. I was like, what's the point of this? I had no understanding of it. Like, oh, just listen, sing out. And you weren't really invested in me. I would see them be interested in other kids, but they weren't really interested in me. But it's just like, and then when I came home, my grandmother, she knows she's tired. She wasn't my grandmother, but she was my great aunt. But she was tired. help at first. Women moved to help. She cleaned up houses in St. Louis. And then she got a job working in the post office. So her name was done. And, you know, she would try to study with me, but she would be so tired. I go lay down. So if she laid down, I'll go do something else. You know, I mean, that's like I was doing. Yeah. I mean, the people that were in my life, like she had shared, she was Reggie and everybody else, like they incubated her, like with love and, you know, doing the right things. Like the people had on, like they had their own issues. They had things that they were struggling with, just generational curses. So everybody was trying to figure out how to survive, and then people would leave their kids with my grandmother to take care of it. She's doing this by herself, hoping that the older kids would help the younger kids. Like we were just trying to survive and just trying to do good. But it's hard to thrive in an environment where everybody is below zero.
Yeah, I think about also the values in communities like that. Like just for myself, there was no value in going to college. It was an ideal, like maybe somebody might go to college, but it's not a value. A value is, can you survive in this environment? How much money can you make? How many girls can you get with? You know, those are the different type of values. And just being transparent, you know, a lot of the people that surrounded me were moving toward criminal activity. And just me being by them, I was associated. You know what I mean? So a lot of people don't realize how easy it is to, like I remember the first time being brought home by police at like 13 years old, and they put me on a gang list, unbeknownst to my knowledge, right? And my mother came down to the station and she said, wait, why is he on the gang list? And she's like, well, he associates with this person's in this gang, this is this, so ideally he must be a part of this. And she had to work to get me off of that. And so I'm just, you know, those who don't know your story, you know, walk us through like the moment where you are identified as somebody who committed a crime, but you didn't commit the crime, and how easy it was for them to just kind of put that on you based off of your surrounding environment.
Well, again, all of our friends on this list, all of my friends on this list, they thought we were troublemakers. They didn't call it themselves gangs, but it was a list. These guys. I found out later on I was the one to use the example. That's why they gave me 65 years. They wanted to use me as an example. They snatched up all the ones that they could, but once they saw me, everybody started going in the house like, oh man, they snatched them up like that. But it's kind of weird what happened. I was in Troy. I was selling marijuana, and which does not qualify you for 65 years in prison. No.
Not legal anymore.
Not legal. You don't hear it in some of this. Yeah, it's no. I was selling marijuana, and I happened to look out my window. Well, not my window. It was a friend of mine's house down in the T, and I looked out the front window, and I see two white men in an unmarked car. They look nothing like police. It looked like people from the mob. They get out, put their guns in the air, and I called T. Like I said, you know them? He said, no. So, like, I immediately break out the house. I said, it's going to be here. And I just tackle by the G. Felt like, oh, no, so knock the wind out. I'm like, they got guns. Like, all right, we got them. I'm like, got them. Like, no, they got guns. Like, he wasn't talking to me. Cuffed me up, took me to a back of the car, and then when I started looking around, there were all police cars around, but not at the front window. And then they take me to this Troy, Missouri jail. And they don't question me, they just basically put me in, and then somebody will come to me and take me to the old county jail. And I'm sitting there, doing the interrogation. And I started asking these questions about the shooting. I'm like, I don't know what y'all talking about. Like, just do your name. And like, throughout that whole process, they think I do this. I don't even know what they're talking about.
How old are you? Like, 16 years old.
16 years old.
I have a 16-year-old, which is crazy. He was flipped out. He got put in that position.
Yeah. But well, I wasn't just 16. Right? I did this term 16. I had been 16, but I basically got locked up 2 weeks before my 17th birthday. Nobody contacted my grandmother. They don't take you to the juvenile facility. They take you to an adult holding tank. And then spray you down, take you through the motions. And one of the officers says to the officer that was taking you to the holding tank, you need to do what you doing this thing. I'm just doing the job. You gotta go in. And the door open, and I'm sitting there looking, and I'm taking it, and again, smell all this body odor, and this guy looking at me weird, and I'm intimidated. I ain't never been in a situation like that. Dude behind me, the officer pushing me in my back, you gotta keep that jab up. And I with my bumper, I stumble in, and I walk into the room, and it's just like people everywhere. You can people sleeping up under the bunks, on top of the bunks, they sit down. In the middle of the bunk, you got people in the middle of the floor. They got people by the phone. They got people by the door, by the bathroom. There's one bathroom for like 30, 40 people. And it's just wrapped up, and it smells so bad. And so I go find, I look for a spot for me to go there, and I'm trying not to make eye contact with people because I'm intimidated. And I go find me a corner, and I sit down. And
You're a kid. No one to advocate for you. No one knows where you are. And no one to come and say, hey, that's my son, that's my child. I think of, when I was in college, I think of all these prominent or well-off college students who sold weed on the side. And if they had been arrested, and charged with a murder, there's going to be someone coming to fight for them, and they're not going to be treated this way. But because you were just seen as like below poverty, just another street urchin, you were treated like nothing. So that starts a long journey for you, and you end up getting convicted for a murder you never committed. Not a murder.
It was a non-fatal attempt.
Oh my God. Yeah. 60 years. 65 years for an attempted murder that you knew nothing about.
it's the first degree assault is attempted murder.
Okay.
First degree assault. It doesn't matter.
Same thing, just different terminology.
You knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
And to me, it's crazy because there are so many people in your position, right? Like who are incarcerated for things I don't have a clue about why I'm in here, but I'm in here. You shouldn't be here right now. I get a little emotional because I know your story. You shouldn't be here. And by the grace of God, you are. Now that's really interesting. That's what's interesting is ad-free content. Like not having this interview interrupted by ads. And that's what I believe you want. The way that happens is by you subscribing to B-Side, where you will get seamless ad-free content. And you'll be able to enjoy this interview along with tons of others without any interruption. I want to switch gears because your life drastically changes from this moment on. So years go by. As the years go by, you are sitting in here, and Maya, you're becoming an all-star. While he's riding away in prison, you're becoming an all-star. Talk a little bit about, okay, you come through high school, because I want to go back and forth a little bit, right? Just the juxtaposition is crazy. You come through high school, all-American, when are you realizing, oh, shoot, I'm really good?
Yeah, I think, so I played up most of my youth. So it was really good for me because I always had to work a little extra hard to keep up with the older girls. I actually had a unique experience where I didn't grow up playing against boys. I grew up playing against older girls. And so that was the way I stayed hungry. I was very self-motivated. And so there are people who have come before me whose shoulders I stand on, who paved the path to make women's basketball something to do, something that can lead you somewhere. And so I saw those opportunities, and when I was in the third grade, the WNBA started. And so when I was 8, I was watching Sophie Cooper and Cheryl Swoops and Lisa Leslie and Teresa Weatherspoon. And in the women's college basketball, the Tennessees, the UConns, And so that was my goal, to get a college scholarship. My mom and I were like, hey, I can get a scholarship to play basketball. Let's aim for this. That was really the aim. My mom.
Time out real quick for the youngins out there who just know about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Right.
I played basketball against Cheryl Swoops once. Okay. It might have been the equivalent of a fifth grader playing against LeBron James. That's how good these women are. So I was a high school student, played against Cheryl Swoops, and I was like, what are you talking about? So I just don't know, people don't understand the caliber of talent that you're looking up to.
Right.
And that molded you. So go ahead.
Amen. I mean, it was super exciting, I think, when WNBA started and the '96 Olympics, and, all the excitement around those times. And so the league is still going and it's going strong. But my mom was like, I hope she just makes it to 5'9" and gets a college scholarship. Like, that was the goal in middle school. I passed her up at the age of 11. I became a 6'14" And so, again, when we moved, and when I was in sixth grade from Missouri, I ended up going to 4 different middle schools. And so I was the tall black girl with big feet at 4 different times. So that desert time for me is actually when I found the Lord for myself. And I realized, if all this is taken away, what do I have left? And it was my Father in heaven. And
so young.
I was in middle school when my identity became more secure. And I can remember feeling the difference, just looking back at, like, I was more secure in who I was. And so I got to go.
FCAs, is church, like what?
Just different churches that we decided to try out once we moved and away from our family. Instead of going to church with them, it's like, all right, we have to take the initiative to seek out where's this community of faith, where's our journey gonna go? And I just fell in love with God's word, and God is my Father. And in those dark times when you're lonely, or middle school is rough, and very identity shaping, and so my identity was just shaped in that lonely time of being God. And so I went through high school not really being as tempted to, like, find all these things because I had found it already. And so that saved me from a lot of stupid things I could have been doing. And that basketball track was perfect, but I made it out okay.
Well, it also tells me that early on, your sense of value was not in what you do, but in who your father is and your relationship. So it's funny because as we move through your story, it makes more sense how you could do this for something that you feel like is greater.
I mean, there's so much life in between what you just said, like, of me finding my identity and starting that path in middle school, but then in college I got to be cultivated by more of the community of God and growing as a leader. By the time I got to UConn as a freshman, if someone was to ask me about my relationship with God, I'd been like, I think, well, let me think, I wouldn't have known how to articulate my walk. And so by the time I graduated from UConn, I was having to read Bible studies for athletes. Like, I just grew so much in the communal aspect of being able to relate to other people and God as well. It wasn't just me and God, now it was me and God and everybody else. And just growing from there. And so, again, I think just having such a foundation of my identity is in this beautiful story that God is showing us through His Word and through His people. I was able to recognize, no, that's not life. That looks like life, but that's not life. No, I'm gonna keep doing this, and I just stayed super focused and took advantage of every single opportunity I was given, and I worked my tail off.
That's when that
And it
breaks.
showed, it paid off. So I was able to reach everything I was
Smoke kan next year, bra.
at a younger age than expected. I've been on so many championship teams. I've been blessed with so many great people that the Lord has brought to be on my team to help me learn and grow and elevate me. And I just try to give it back. And so I'm on this track of breaking records, being on history-making teams, working my tail off in the classroom, graduating with honors, and all that's going on. And in the meantime, I'm staying connected with my family that I grew up with in Missouri, which I think is leading into how we met. My great uncle, who was the uncle that moved to be the choir director at the HBCU, had been doing prison industry for ever since his decade. And when I was growing up in Missouri, I had no idea he was doing this. I only learned like as a young adult that he was doing this. And this is the type of man he is. And my great aunt and their oldest daughter, Mrs. Sherry, who's my godmom, and she had heard about Jonathan's story through my great uncle because he had met Jonathan in a prison industry conference through a choir program. And just my great uncle met Jonathan in 19, the Missouri State Penitentiary at the time, which has a horrible legacy of violence and darkness and just craziness. And Jonathan was there at 19. And my great uncle met him, just saw him, took an interest in him, taught him to sing, told him, "You're a perfect pitch, you know that." And I was like, "What? A perfect pitch?" And just encouraged him to be a leader. He ended up leading the choir, leading other music programs. Told him he was smart, encouraged him in the ways for being smart for good reasons, not for criminal reasons. And another person who was inside with Jonathan encouraged him to get in the library and learn what they did to you so you can try to get out and advocate for yourself. And Jonathan taught himself law while inside.
Yeah, I want to get to that. Before we get to that,
but I can't help it. I'm just so.
I want to get to that.
I know you're supposed to be asking about me, but I got carried away with my great uncle John.
The beautiful part about it for me is like God. Like when I met you, I believe it was a conference in downtown Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like it was downtown. It felt like it was a NCAA. No, it was Athletes in Action event, and you were speaking.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And this is another thing. Okay, so generationally, I just want the kids to understand context. And you're not going to say this about yourself, so I'll say it. You were the equivalent of LeBron James in the WNBA. You're the equivalent of Michael Jordan in the WNBA. There's never been a Maya Moore before you, and there hasn't been one after you. And you are at a conference talking about Jesus at the height of your career, and connected to your uncle who's doing prison ministry, and you're curious. You're like, he brings you to.
So my great uncle tells my godmom and the rest of our family about Jonathan. My godmom and my goddad start to visit Jonathan, take an interest in him because they're like, this is wrong, we gotta do something. And they just start visiting him, just to be a person to go have somebody to visit. And then I hear about it because that's what they're doing. And so I'm like, I want to keep up with this. Like, what is going on? My mind's blown because I'm thankfully not very aware of the prison system because it hasn't been a part of my story. And I just assume people who are in prison are supposed to be in prison because they committed a crime, and I'm just kind of like most of the population who's ignorant of this huge population of our society. We house the most prisons in the world. Prisoners in the world, in the land of the free, the home of the brave. A quarter of the world's prisoners are in the United States of America. It's a shame. It's shameful.
Not a lot of
Biarkan tuh. Oper. Lagi ulang oper. Escape oper. Sorry.
The system of criminal justice in our country is not meant to. It's not set up to reform and to restore. It's meant to destroy. And so I'm very ignorant of this. Most of us are very ignorant of this on purpose because it's kept very quiet. And so I'm learning about this. Like there's a he was arrested at 16 for something he didn't do, and all of his evidence is right here. What is happening? And so I agreed to go visit him at the age of 18, right before I go off to UConn. And I just meet him. And I'm just with him like a person. I'm looking him in his eye. I'm interested in his life. We end up playing a game of chess. We end up playing a game of checkers, and I won't say who won or lost, but
You know, my mother, man, she don't play this game and not play no more. It's like, I'm done, I'm retired. I'm like, it's fine.
I beat him. He's a chess wizard, so I won't play him in chess.
This is the crazy part, because
It's time. It's time for voices to rise, stories to be told. And it's time for the culture to feel the shift.
time for the world to witness greatness in its purest form. It's time for the 2024 Black Friday sale. Up to 80% off everything in the entire store. A limited edition exceptions, new designs, new prices. The Crave.store. So you meet him, and at this point in time, Jonathan, you are well versed in the prison system. So at this point, and God has done some work in your own heart, right? Go from 16 to 19. What did that world look like as going from 16 to 19 before you run into her uncle and the stuff you had to endure, the world that just came upon you? You should have been in a classroom or playing football somewhere, but instead you are literally learning how to survive in gladiator school.
It's a combination of being a savage man with things of lawless. But also that there are people that are going in the opposite direction. There were some men that were Christians that actually walked with me like a disciple with me. And for all this crazy stuff was going on, like they would see me in different areas, like, hey, get around, come over here. Come hang out with us. Talk to me about my life and what my day was. My friend, the first night I was there, and then I didn't know, what is this screaming? And 17, just the way you say it about like that's normal.
And you had a good cellmate, I'm assuming? My first cellmate was Steve. Okay.
Well, I probably had 20, 30 cellmates, about 30 years before. So pee all over the toilet. I was one of those peers on the toilet too, just somebody showed me what to do.
You gotta sit in the cell, man. You sit and pee when you're in prison.
No, you don't
I'm definitely with that. You don't do that. I know you know. You don't do that, bro. Nah, but go ahead. So, I don't think people understand the two worlds and how, to me, the centerpiece is hope, right? It's hope. You had hope in a God who could do something bigger than your reality. You had hope in a God who was bigger than this reality that everybody told you was the biggest reality in existence. And I'm trying to, why would you hope for? People are getting raped. There's stabbings happening.
I got stabbed. So,
You've been stabbed.
yeah, somebody thought I killed their homeboy and I had to fight them off. I was working. Literally working.
Wait, tell me. So walk me through that feeling and that, what that was. Give me the story of that.
So I was working in the steam room, and the steam room services 2,000 to 3,000 inmates a day, washing their dishes. It's hot, it's horrible. It's one way in, one way out. And it's down in the basement in the cafeteria. And I'm home. I've probably been working about 3 or 4 months at this time. Just, washing, trying to eat, because food is horrible unless you know somebody. And they would cook food for you, especially if you're working in the kitchen. So I'm working there. That's a perk. I'm making like $7.50 a month. A month. Clean dishes. So I happened to look up one day. Someone said, look back. And I looked back, and I see a dude walking in with a knife in his hand. And the other guy has a pen. And they looking at me, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's got to be somebody behind me. And so they easing in on me, like, yeah, we got you now. And he reached out and tried to stab me. And I blocked out him, but then he got me. And I didn't know that at the time. I grabbed his wrist, and I popped it, and the knife fell out. And I grabbed it, and then I lunged at him. And he fall and get away. The other guy with the pot, he swings at me, but he fall. And so I fall back up against the wall, and I come back to get my balance, and I say something,
What are you thinking when they come at you?
but I wasn't thinking. I was thinking like, oh my God.
So just panic mode comes in, just a fight or flight.
Right, and there was no way out. I couldn't go behind me. That was they were the only. They were blocking the only entrance and exit. So I was like, I had no choice. I couldn't go over the corner. I thought to myself, I'm about to die. I'm about to die. I'm about to die. I'm about to die. I said that. They about to kill me. And I stabbed the last guy in his cheek, and he ran. And then I ran out, and I started to calm down. I got this knife in my hand, and I'm looking around. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and I feel like, I sighed and look down like, oh man. So I go back in there, and I'm looking around like toilet paper and napkins, and I see an old gray shirt in the corner. So I grab that and put it under my shirt, and I go up to overhead and go to Hamburger John. And Hamburger John took me to my cell, stitched me up with some stolen medical supplies, and told me to stay in my cell for a few weeks, don't move.
This is the part that I think people, because a lot of people say, man, why would you not go to the medic? Why would you not say, hey, excuse me, officer, I've been stabbed, because they don't understand the repercussions and all the things. Right, so, I mean, do you want to articulate that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's one thing. So we in the prison, it is taboo to tell the authorities anything. And if you do tell them that you get stabbed, oh, I just got stabbed, you're going to sit down in the hole, and you probably not going to get the medical attention that you need.
What's the hole?
The hole is solitary confinement. It's where they put you at when you're being punished or under some type of investigation or administrative investigation. You don't see people, you only see daylight through a small window, and like here, they're just 23, 24 hours a day in your cell.
Prison at the prison.
Yeah, it's like going to jail and you actually get handcuffed and taken down there. Every time you come out of the cell, you go back in there. So had I done that, I would have went down there, probably would have been worse. I probably would have died. And I knew at that point, like people told me, man, don't go to medical. Man, don't tell nobody what's going on. Don't do it. I was well versed on what happened. So, and I knew I was going to talk to my old head friend, who's one of the guys who was giving me knowledge and wisdom. And he led me right. And I didn't get in trouble.
And you didn't die.
And I didn't die.
So Maya, when you're visiting John and you're playing chess and you're hearing this type of stuff, like, what is it about, like, are you intrigued? Are you brokenhearted? Are you like, you didn't even commit the crime? Like, how are you feeling during this whole time period of interacting with John?
Yeah, I think over time, Jonathan being compassionate would tell me things bit by bit because, we're talking about these things now because, more time has passed, we've talked about this, but when you're introducing someone to the horrors of prison, and I'm, younger at the time, I think he just gave me kind of bit by bit because he's kind. But I would learn little things here and there. He gave me some peeks into the violence.
But you knew he was
But I
innocent.
knew what was happening to him. I had seen the facts of his case.
Yeah.
I had talked to him. I'd gotten to know him. He's vetted. He's been being vetted for years.
Yeah.
But just the facts of his case. And there was a huge piece of evidence that God led my godfather to that literally showed that the prosecutors changed, withheld evidence. And so we're just finding all these things of like, how is this happening? Like, why would people not want the right thing to happen? It's so mind-boggling when you see systematic hate right in front of you. Of just like, why we as human beings choosing to do this and setting this culture and setting this tone, me having been blessed to experience systems of thriving and teamwork and winning and joy and overcoming and good things. Like, I know what it's supposed to look like when you have champions, when you have unselfish leaders, not caring who gets the credit, celebrating everybody, working their tail off, moving the ball, working hard, helping each other, and you win. Like, that's how you win. When you play and you operate in a certain way, in a certain mindset, it leads to really, really good things that everybody aspires to, except for here. right? Like, it's like the opposite in this place. And so the contrast for me of like, I've tasted and seen what it's supposed to look like when you're a champion. And I'm also walking with someone who knows way too well what it looks like when the opposite is happening and death is the goal. And so I can't leave because I'm like, I know too much. I know this is not supposed to look like this, and you're a human being and you matter. And once your eyes are open and you have a heart beating in your chest, you can't unsee it. And so the next step is, what do we do? And I think that is why so many people are fighting so hard not to let it be seen, because they know when people with heartbeats in their chest see this, they're going to want to bring life to it. And so the people that are benefiting from the death are doing what they can to keep it hush, 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 quiet, fake, not being authentic and being in reality. And so every now and again, people get in the cracks and they see, and they're like, no, we're going in here.
Now, what was the benefit of his case being covered up?
So the prison industrial complex, basically like slave labor. So if any of you are familiar with Ava DuVernay, she is a wonderful storyteller. 13th rocked my world. It's a documentary that basically helps us understand the history of how slavery in America morphed into mass incarceration. And so that's the benefit of having mass incarceration, is the continuation of slavery, because the 13th Amendment of our United States Constitution says that slavery is banned except for in a prison system type of situation. And so
you are the property of the state.
You were convicted of a crime, you are now able to be treated like a slave. And so that is the benefit. And so you have prisons for profit. We spend more money on prisons than we do education in a lot of ways. And then it's not talked about, right? To do all this and then not talk about it. So that's the benefit.
In his case specifically, though, I know that they were hiding some information.
A lot of information.
Here's the other benefit of that. The information they were hiding was embarrassing. Also, they would have to make large substantial payments to reimburse or make amends to recognize they were trying to avoid that at all costs. Even fabricating evidence in the evidence hearing in front of the judge and court in front of reporters and people. Like that bold. And they continued to perpetuate that lie all the way to the Missouri Supreme Court. Like they were making dollars. It wasn't even about like it was under injustice.
At the end of the day, they're putting money over people. And when you live that way for so long, you will do whatever it takes to maintain that, because that's what you were taught to do. That's what's been cultivated in you, to do what you need to do to protect yourself and your money at the expense of other people who have been shaped and story told and cultivated to be seen as less than human. And so that's what our work is, right?
So in a nutshell, you didn't commit the crime.
Correct.
There's proof you didn't commit it, but they covered that up because that would make them, they lied.
On the stand. Like the dude
Because
lied.
that would make them look bad.
Yes.
And they would lose their job, but they didn't care about you losing your freedom.
No.
Or life.
Or life.
And they lose their job.
That's a whole nother story.
We digress.
Okay, so let's talk about this is what I love. First of all, this is what I love. I love the fact that, because I think there's a lot of elements of us as believers interacting. And some of us are more like distinction and let's scream the gospel from the rooftops. And I think we just roll for it all. We need it all. But rarely do we see believers grab the mantle of justice. And you know, and Amos talks about doing justice. And I see y'all like having this belief. It's almost like otherworldly belief that God is a God of justice and he's going to come through it, which is crazy. They have sentenced you basically to a death sentence in prison. And y'all are saying, nah, I didn't do it. And God is a God of justice and I believe he's going to come through it. You know, like Joseph, you know, locked up and just like, well, God, did you come to a place where you were just like, well, God, whatever happens, happens? Or were you like, nah, I'm just going to believe that God's going to work this out? Where was your head going?
You could both. I would say this. my faith really became my own when I started praying right down my prayer. And I would see it happening. I was like, wait, did I pray on that? I know this. But then it comes to I got protection. I got wisdom. I got favor. Like I was, so you only allow 2 hours a day to go to the Lord and the rest day. Before I got a job, I was in there 8 hours a day because the CEOs knew that I was going to the library and I wouldn't hurt nobody. I wasn't doing nothing. So it's like, you don't call them problems over there. You need money. But you might already cause a problem. If you go to the library, just come back. I would be there all day. And that was so crucial for me to be able to do that, to go to the library, because it actually helped me come here now to be able to articulate what was going on with the criminal justice system in relation to my case. Like there was so many examples of just favor and just things that I would pray about. Like whenever I would read the word, man, it was like it would breathe life in me. And just encourage me and help me understand the people around me. And it just I got to a point though, I was praying to God and like I wanted to be free. I know you see it, I had conversations with God.
Listo.
You know how they do this, you just blah 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 blah, just go off. And I would always say like, don't do that. You encourage something else. And I don't feel bad about cussing, but
I'll be cussing a guy too. I just say because what I didn't do.
that's in the Bible. It's the son or something. But then I use the cuss words that we use. But it's, things that were said. And I learned that I'm like, I can have a relationship with you and tell you how I really feel. And you care. You still talking to him? Yeah. You didn't turn from him, right?
You're going to him with that anger.
Yeah. And then, I lost 11 people. 11. And every one of them, man, I knew God was going to come through for me and set me free. But I also knew that I was inside helping other people change their lives. And I was guiding like for some of them. And I was like, okay, you got me here for a purpose. And then I got to the point, I was like, well, Lord, you may not want me to go home. This may be my purpose here. And I came to the place, I said this over and over again. First time I said it, I didn't mean it. The second time I said it, I did it. But then every time I said it over and over again, I would say it in pain. I would say, Lord, even if you don't let me go, I'm still going to say that this place hurts, it's horrible. But I also know that I can help people change their lives. I can help people get out. I can help people survive and get adjusted to prison life, which is a whole other thing. That there is a purpose for me, and I see it. I'm able to reach people that normally wouldn't be able to reach. People that other people are afraid to talk to. Reaching people in the administration, getting them to see things by talking to them. That they're like, oh, you make a good point. I never heard of that yet. I was clearly operating in my purpose, and I knew that's what God had for me. I was able to be in that place. Because the Lord said, I want you to be free. And he kept showing me things. I found cases that normally you wouldn't just find cases like that help my case. That I could research and share, put in my briefs and everything. And the Lord came through and pretty way, I couldn't get the 12-1.
12-1. Come on now. Come on 12. Come on 12. So let's talk about, I know y'all story, but I know y'all seen the comments and the chaos about some of y'all's stories. So I wanna talk about it. I want y'all to debunk some of these myths out here.
I clearly don't know that.
Oh, let me tell you.
We're like your wife.
Okay, let me tell you a couple of myths out here. Number one myth is, first of all, there's people who mad. They like, man, I hate this dude. He Robinson, the best WNBA player ever. You know what I mean? Like, people have said, first off, somebody said something on the news, I think he was Warren, he said, man, I was mad at you, bro. You took mine away from me. I said, oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. You know what I'm saying? But I'm home now, you know what I'm saying? That's a good thing to praise God about. Right. Yeah. So one of the online myths, I know the real deal, but y'all can give us, is like, you was grooming her while y'all was in there, and you was like, just, hey man, you need to be my girl. and you need to be my love thing and my boo thing, you know, and you know. So what? Talk to us about the romantic. Because y'all was just friends.
That was an amazing imitation. That was excellent.
Hey, I'm just saying what the people out there
What
saying.
are the people saying? So the people that know us, right?
They know
They know your
mom was in that prison block with me.
Right.
They know. I seen it.
I saw him.
I know I was in the business. I seen it. What's going on?
I seen she was just walking by with a basketball and all. I said, hey, Mom, come here. Let me holler at you real quick.
Stop. You're done. That is funny. Done. But it's absurd, right? Like the expertise that we feel like we have when we literally don't know people. Which is something I encourage young folks these days to remember. Don't pay so much attention to people who don't actually know you. Pay attention to people who are in your life, who you trust. That should hold more weight than a stranger on the screen. Save yourself some headache. I digress.
And get respectable sources of information.
Yes. So we don't know how to research, right? Like we love to watch something for 20 seconds and then we feel like we're like at least half an expert on the topic, right? That's just the way our culture and social media and information has been grooming us to believe about reality and ourselves. And so one of the best things I think about our story, it's a reminder of reality of actually how truth works. So truth works by investigating, by testing, by taking time, by multiple perspectives and multiple sources, right? So Jonathan learned how to become an expert researcher, which is why he was able to live in truth. And we have a handful of people who have multiple perspectives about our story as they walk with us through our friendship that turned into more than a friendship. And so we had safety within the trusted people that were walking with us. We weren't doing this in secret, right? We let other people into our relationship who we trusted to walk with us. We were friends for over 6 years before we really started to fall in love. And so our story speaks to the truth of friendship.
Come on.
Right? And how we don't know how to be friends anymore.
Yes, sir.
And how friendship is such a root of being human and being happy and being well when you're a good friend. And so our relationship got to go through things because we were friends for so long. And just trusting the Lord. Like our loyalty to God and who He is in His ways is higher than any relationship in our life. And so there was safety in we were always trying to honor God first, and out of that, it overflowed into love. It was just a natural progression of when you walk with someone so intimately for so many years, you get to see their character. I get to see him overcome. I get to see his ups and his downs. I get to see how strong he is and how caring and kind he is. You get to see me and be a friend to me. And it was just a natural progression of friendship into love and into partnership.
Were you afraid to fall for him, or like because you didn't know the outcome of the situation? What did that feel like?
Yeah, it was a whole roller coaster because we were friends for a while, and there was, probably a little chunk of time where we were like, okay, we like each other, but no, this isn't like I'm playing around the world, you're fighting for your freedom, like this is like this can't happen. And then there came a day where it was like, okay, we have to be honest. Like, if we're following Jesus, part of following Jesus is you will give an honesty, if you are truthful, a time and a place and right context of what truth is told. But there was a time and a place where it was like, all right, we have to stop pretending like we don't love each other. And it makes sense, right? Like, I've seen you, you've seen me. We've had conversation after conversation after conversation. That's how you fall in love with somebody. You talk to them. You walk with them. You see their life. And we have the blessing of conversation, and we had to learn how to talk to each other and listen. I got to practice listening a whole lot. I'm up on the top of this pedestal where I could be, everybody listen to me. I got to listen to him. I learned so much, and I became such a better human because of listening to him and his perspective and his stories and where he's coming from. I learned so much. So every time I got a chance to talk using my platform, I was literally just spitting out what I learned from him.
Wow.
That was the blessing of his friendship and him pouring out to me wisdom and life. And so I think that our love got to be cultivated through the fire.
Were you prepared? Like, if the appeal didn't go through?
I just try not to think about it, honestly. Like, I'm such a, if it hasn't happened yet, I'm not gonna freak out. Like, I can't. I only have so much emotional energy. What we're trying to do is super hard. And, I had to steward my emotional energy because we were fighting so hard to shine a light on this injustice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was devastating and excruciating. When his conviction was overturned in March of 2020, the pandemic, the week after his conviction was overturned, everything went on lockdown. A week later, we would have been able to have that hearing. It would have just been, it would have drugged on and on and on. But the state of Missouri, just in the saving face, just keep an eye on the truth, even though it was evident right there. The appellate court, the Supreme Court of Missouri were all like, stop doing this. This can't go. And it just kept on. It drug it out for 5 more months.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do these people not realize, like, we're trying to, like, get married, have a family, like, live a life, do all these good and beautiful things. You don't care about any of it. All to save face and to save money and to save some vision of reality that they think is real. That has nothing to do with everybody thriving. So it was excruciating, but we just tried to take it one day at a time and try to do the next best thing.
I like the fact that you mentioned this was not in a vacuum. Like you were involved with community. You were processing this with other loved ones. This wasn't just like a random thing. You're processing it all. To process your relationship with Jonathan is one thing, but to process at the height of your career, to say I'm done. Because it's not like, you know, you were like old in the game and you hadn't done anything. It's like, nah, this is like Jordan after the 3rd championship, you know, and you're like, I'm out. What were people saying to you? What was and how were you navigating the pushback, if any?
So, like I said earlier, what I have found most helpful to my survival is to only give certain voices weight in my life. Voices that I trust and that I know. Like, I pay attention to the general kind of word of you know, fans and different people that pay attention, but the what's most critical to my well-being are the people I actually live life with. And all of those people were very supportive because they know me, they know why I do what I do. They have a deeper understanding of the meaning of what I do. And so I was getting to a point where I was feeling such tension in knowing I needed to be somewhere else, but I was still in this basketball rhythm. People, we naturally don't understand, just like you as an artist, people don't see the work and the time that it takes to hone your craft and to dedicate so much of your life to really centering. My life was centered around basketball. And I cared about my teammates and I poured my heart out for them and community, and I was doing the things best as I could, and y'all saw that. Like you saw, I gave everything.
May datong los.
But then there was a time where it's like,
Ano
okay,
ulit
I
datong
can't
lang?
give everything here
Huh?
and
Ulit datong.
give what I know
Kasi?
I need to
Ano ulit
give.
datong
It's a
dun?
very, very crucial situation
Yeah.
over here. Plus, my own well-being
Druk pa yun
is
dati.
get disconnected from the rhythm of the women's basketball pro sport rhythm. So I think it was a combination of my well-being so that I could be well, to be more present
Yeah.
in this criminal justice space for Jonathan and for my family, right? I got tired of missing weddings and Thanksgivings and graduations and, you know, being able for my cousins or family to feel like they could call me if they needed help because I wasn't too busy and needed to focus on winning championships.
If I'm
Right?
lost.
It's a different type of dynamic
Also.
of how you relate to your people when you're freed up and they don't feel like they're burdening you or distracting you from playing basketball. And so all of that, I think, played a role in me stepping away and then trying to articulate it through my short article that I called The Shift when I announced it in 2019. But it was shocking. Like, I knew. I wasn't expecting it to happen, but I felt like it was what I needed to do, and I have zero regrets. You know, I look at our life now and the freedom that I have to be able to show up to things and to be present and to cultivate our home and to be a present mom. And, like, I love hooping, right?
Yeah.
But it's very much, it can be an all-consuming, all pro sport and entertainment life can easily be all-consuming and dehumanize you if you let it.
That's good.
If you let it, but also it's set up to be that way.
Yeah.
That's another conversation.
I have a lot of respect for your vantage point and your perspective. To me, it's the essence of Christianity. It's saying I'm willing to lay everything down to do what I feel like God has called me to do.
That's the point. The point is to live life with God, with each other, with creation in a healthy way. And if there's things that are set up around you, whether it's systems or relationships or mindsets that are causing chaos, we got to choose life. Yeah. And so once you learn, that's the hard part, having eyes to see. That's what Jesus says. I pray they have eyes to see, eyes to see. Once you see it, I couldn't not do it. So it was work getting to see it. But once the Lord said, no, here it is, I was like, oh, there's the path. And I just said yes. And it's been nothing but fruit. It's been hard, but it's been nothing but fruit.
So the moment comes when freedom is knocking on your door. And I want to be honest here. I felt a little shame when it was announced that your campaigning for Jonathan and his appeal and everything else had come through. Because I was like, I saw you posted about it, and I may have reposted, I may have done a couple of things, but I was like, when I learned more, I was like, I should have done more. Because I was like, I didn't understand the depth of this, and I felt like I should have supported her more. I should have, and then after getting to know you, I'm like, oh man, I should have went on a rampage about this thing. But it's also humbling because it's like God is saying, I didn't need you to do what I was gonna do. I welcome you to be a part of it if you want to be, but I was gonna do what I was gonna do. And so this moment happens, and I'm curious for both of y'all. Like, I've seen the documentary, but you haven't seen it.
It's called Breakaway.
Breakaway, yeah, it's the third. I've seen it, and I saw the moment, for both of y'all. But I'm just curious, like, what, people who haven't seen it, what did that feel like? For one, for you, I can imagine it's a feeling of joy, but in my mind, it's kind of bittersweet because they took so many years of your life in order to say, oh, we were wrong. You can actually go do that. What are you processing in this time?
Walking out those doors?
Yeah. It was bittersweet. It was sweet because I was going home. I was coming out with my people. I've been waiting. Just excited to see me, praise the Lord. But at the same time, like, I spent 23 and a half years there. Gone. Like, I miss all my 20s, all my 30s, from 16 to 20, gone. Just gone out of my life. No prom. Yeah, no football, no homecoming, no none of that. The other day I went to a Tuskegee homecoming. That was the first homecoming I ever been to, I missed my grandmother's funeral. My friends had children, they grew up, grew apart. My family grew apart, and just everybody spread out now. All the memories I could have made, like just gone. But
plus the trauma that was added to your life that shouldn't have been added. It's not that he just had stuff taken or opportunities taken, but what was given to him instead was unjust trauma that he now has to deal with and his family has to deal with, because when you have trauma, it always impacts everyone in the community. And that's the stuff that no amount of money that they paid can, all of that's going to go to counseling because of what happened in the system that negatively impacted him. So he's carrying all that out with him. But I love that he was there.
I was ready to be the first thing smoking away from my
I was like, where do you want to go?
Let's go.
Anywhere but here, let's go.
The irony of it is you back in them places now doing mentorship and leadership and re-entry programs. Like, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
Most people will be like, bye.
Right.
I'm never coming back again.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I remember the first time I went back. I went back as a visitor. I went to go visit my friend who was black, but I very careful with that in my life. Some laws changing that I had those things. And one of my homeboys drove me up there. He said I didn't want to go there by myself for various reasons. And we happened to be 30 minutes on the facility, 30 minutes before we were allowed to go. I didn't realize that. I've never had to visit that night before. But I remember coming up over the hill and like the prison sits down on like a valley. We used to get floodplain back in 94, it was full of water. And outdoors up on the hill. I remember coming around this hill and as soon as I saw it, my chest started hurting. I had to force myself to breathe. And I was like, you alright, man? I said, yeah, I'm gonna be alright. I'm gonna be alright. So we get down there, we park, turn the car off. Ready? I said, you gonna stay out here? He said, yeah, I'm gonna wait for you. So I open the door, get out, shut the door, pause for a minute, take it all in, like nothing. It's all prison for that. We trapped me. I was looking at the barbed wire and all the fences. And it's like, wow, seeing COs coming in and out. And so I start my path up to the door. And the CO comes to the door when I get up to it. He said, yes. I said, hey, he's following. I couldn't see, Gary Hamilton. So this is I said, okay, thank you. You like, back to the car, sitting there. Alright, he said, you alright? I said, man, I think I am. I can walk away from the door. I calmed myself down. I was like, okay. It's like, it's not that bad. Like, what I conquered that fear. I really into that. So I think I can do this. So, then, I had open. I went back to the door, through the line. And as I'm going through the line, I'm putting my mind in the place of all the people who came to see me. And I'm thinking about what they experienced for the first time coming here. I was just so emotional about it. I was so grateful that he made that track to come see me and deal with all that difficulty just to get inside of a prison. Nobody, unless they love you, goes into a prison to go see someone. And they came in there every weekend as often as they could to come see me. And when I got into the prison, I remember the prison because I was up there a lot. And I just think about memories and it's just so weird to say, hey, I'm here to visit the family. When I walked in, like there were prisoners that and they just like, oh my God, tears. You know, one guy got up and hugged me. He said, I don't care if I go to the hole. I don't care. And he came up to me and like this is one of the guys I helped mentor. He was a dangerous little dude. You know, but he's living a law-abiding life in prison. And he's got contact with the family, which I encourage him to do. And like just coming up to me, just people seeing me, wanting to hug, sending me the fist or the peace sign. And just I kept every time I look around, somebody's looking at me, smile in prison, and they're telling their family about me. And then Gary comes out, and like he tried to play it cool, He's like he cats out, and he's like, "What's up, bro?" I said, "What's up, man? How you doing?" We sat down. He said, "Yeah, it's good to see you." So she came over to see me. But that first, man, my brother, man, I love you. That was the other side of the bitterness because I left all my friends behind to grow up with. Like these aren't friends that you meet at the grocery store and you're cool or at an event or something like that and you just bond. Like these are guys that we have been through adversity together. We have survived prison riots. We have gang riots. Like people trying to attack one another, like we know adversity and like we were locked in solidarity. Somebody was hungry across the yard and we couldn't walk up on the house, we would figure out a way to get somebody a care package. Like, hey, you need toothpaste, soap, whatever you need food, we get it to you. We basically would smuggle it to them. So the CEOs couldn't stop that from happening. That's what type of friends I had. Like decades of friendships. Decades. Like, and I'm sad because like some of them ain't never going home. That's the reality. Even though they're reformed, that's the reality. So their goal, a lot of them is focusing on just having quality of life and actually giving back and helping people. Yeah, as much as they can. But there are some that will get out. You know, that's why they get on everybody just because somebody's gonna get out. I started to have my phone numbers. They call me right now, answer the phone. I email them, I send them money, you know, just try to encourage them as much as I can. You know, but so now coming back in the capacity of an advocate, like that was a different feeling. I still felt like I just went back this weekend, this last week, and I felt the tension in my mind. I was like, man, are they gonna be receptive to what I'm saying? But I'm kind of blown out. These people are gonna pay me to come tell them about themselves.
To come reform the system that
try to take you out.
Yes. Oh man, they probably like popcorn without butter. I'm telling you. Like they just on the every chance they got, they put their foot on my neck. But that was their training. Yeah, that was what they knew to do. And it was a culture, a programming had me now. Like they learned it from core and all that. That's what they did. And now they're learning like this isn't getting us anywhere. Like people are dying. Like officers are killing inmates.
Creating more chaos and violence.
And it's not a good thing. And it's like, how can we bring this culture back? And it's like, you know, Jonathan, like you've been in prison over 2 decades, and like you've seen stuff come and go on all the backcourt. And I'm like, you're right. I'm getting to talk to them about what worked and what's not working, and just all the ideas and just the support that's out here for guys, and just, you know, just some of their policies and just how they treat each other, their culture, which is so wild. And then I got to sit in the room with 20 plus guys, and you know, some of them like the Doom Squad suits where they basically come in your cell and thrash and bash you. But they were in there, everybody was peaceful, everybody was supporting me. Like it was so good to see them, and I got to speak to them and encourage them and just, you know, talk about everyone's out here and what everybody, what's the culture like for prisoners in society. It's like a lot of them, they don't know. Like in prison, you live in a fishbowl. You don't get to know what's happening unless somehow somebody tells you on visit, or you hear it on the phone call, or you have to see it in the newspaper when you get it. Other than that, like you have to fight for knowledge. Like knowledge is you have to be in war for it to gain it.
Yeah, I had a close friend of mine who was a CO, and I saw little by little his faith deteriorate, and he started to dehumanize people. He started to refer to them as perps or cons, and I was like, yo, those are people made in God's image, bro. Like, and they're not all one type of person either. I mean, you may have one that did some wild stuff, but all of them are not on that page. And I think that's another part of our justice system that has to change, and I'm glad that, like I said, man, I'm signed up. Whenever you go, and I'm going. You know what I mean? I'm signed up. I'm going. I guess, man, the biggest thing, you know, as I'm talking to y'all is I see a picture of hope. I see a picture of justice at work. I see a picture of redemption. Knowing y'all outside, I see, man, like God is blessed. And yes, there's always the ongoing wounds, and obviously money don't fix wounds like that. So it's even helping the justice system understand that you just can't throw money at some of this stuff. Like you got to throw some healing, and really a justice system in general, so that you don't have to do this type of healing.
Lasting systemic change that is necessary.
Yes.
So those lives is the same thing.
Well, I'm a product of, you know, my father and my uncle. There's every man in my family has been incarcerated, and so for me, it's kind of like how did I still to this day feel less of a man for not having spent time in prison. And that's something I have to fight, because that's the value system that was taught to me, is that if you don't go to prison, you're not a real man.
Wow.
That's wild, man. It's stupid. But I have to shake that every day. People are like, why don't you think that? And then there's another side of me that, so it's also why I'm extremely passionate about the prison system and those inside, is because that's what I've always experienced, visiting my uncle and so on and so forth. So I just have a lot of, you know, empathy and sympathy for what it is that y'all have done and the route that y'all have taken. It's a blessing to me, you know, to see what y'all have done, thank y'all for y'all story and sharing. And then with anything people can be praying for, you know, we do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things to share. You know, we have a nonprofit called Women with Justice.
Come on.
And it is focused on
Hetzelfde.
prosecutorial reform. So our prosecutors are like the biggest actors in our justice system. And so Women with Justice helps us educate ourselves about prosecutors because we vote for them. Newsflash, I didn't know that. And so Women with Justice helps us know how to be a more engaged voter for our leaders in our justice system. But it's also a platform to tell the good stories of hope.
Yeah.
So now that Jonathan is out, Women with Justice is not so much about advocating for Jonathan's release, it's more so about telling stories of people who are doing these good things to telling the good stories of people who are trying to rebuild broken systems. And so we have been able to do some fun and exciting things with Women with Justice. We partnered with our Daily Bread